ciao visiem. It's my birthday today. Oh my god. My favorite day of the year, a national holiday yet to be recognized, a global holiday. I'm turning 28. I am 28. Oh my god. So I did some reflecting on the past year, and I just took notes on the biggest life lessons I've learned, some things I've learned, some things I'm kind of learning as I go right now. I'll go through them one by one, and I hope that these lessons are useful or inspirational to others. So number one, I titled, and I should have given a disclaimer that these are going to be cheesy and cliche as hell, but that's literally what all truth is. So number one for me was this thing I titled as Return to Childhood, and it's something I've been sort of working through, I feel like, for a couple of years, but especially this year. And for me, it's this idea that we knew who we were as children, and then, you know, as they say, world happened, we developed different coping mechanisms, we experienced, you know, the violence that the outside world can bring upon us, institutional social norms and all that stuff, and this uniqueness just gets kind of beaten out of you. So over the last year, I've just felt this intense urge to return to all things that I loved as a child, return to really loving animals and nature. That was my biggest thing as a child. I loved that so much. And then, you know, as years went by, it was sort of a not cool thing to do. It's not cool to care, and you know, all that stuff. So I kind of pushed that aside. A lot of different other things like biking or rollerblading, stuff that I loved as a child that I want to return to. And books and interest, music, I've been returning to a lot of music I used to love as a child. This idea of returning to who we were as children, and just sort of sorting through that memory box and our beings, and seeing if there isn't something from that I would love to resurrect. I would love to bring that up again, because it was never really my choice to let go of that. It was the outside world that forced me to, one way or another. So the number one thing is return to childhood, return to baby girl Lulu, to baby girl Lulu's dreams, whatever she wanted, the countries she liked, the stuff she loved and enjoyed, to return to that. And I guess a half point that goes with that is, I warned y'all it's gonna be cliche, but obviously the things that we all used to hide as kids and teenagers, the parts of ourselves, the physical appearance, the physical parts of ourselves, but also you know, our interests or what we were attracted to, all that amazing, beautiful, magnificent stuff that we used to hide is obviously what makes us the most unique, because for various forces and reasons we just try to fit in. We're kind of forced to fit in and to be part of the mainstream, and we want to be accepted by the regular masses. And so we destroy all that, and it's so sad. And then when you get to my age, or you know, anyways, you get older and you're like, wow, that was so fucking cool, and then all those things come up as trends, and you're like, damn, I used to love that, and I kind of killed that in me. And yeah, I think it's just a pattern, a cycle that happens, and we see this so often. So basically just cling to what makes you unique, cling to all those things that feel authentically, truthfully yours, even if they're not recognized by the people around you, even if it's something your family doesn't understand about you, that you don't yet have a community. You know, I've always loved meditation. That was not something I saw anyone near me do, and I just sort of let that go. But there are people who are gonna understand you, and even if they don't, this is the most important. My major job is to be my authentic self and to live in my truth, and that is the most important thing. So as part of return to childhood, return to all those things that you pushed down and hid that made you so unique. They're still within you, and you can still bring them all up, and you know, better later than never. So the second thing is the power of surrender. I think that this has been such a hard lesson for me, y'all. I cannot explain how hard it is. It is still so hard to me. Lately, this has been my mantra. This has been sort of a thing I tell myself every morning when I wake up. I remind myself throughout the day. I literally just keep saying, release the grip, surrender, stop trying to control the outcome, stop trying to control the outcome, surrender, surrender, surrender. And that's something that's extremely hard for me to learn, because I grew up in conditions where you had to resist, you had to fight to survive. And everything that I have in my life, like me being here right now in the US, getting a PhD, being semi-financially stable, having a semi-stable mental health, you know, like having so much happiness and joy in my life and so much less suffering and trauma and violence that I used to have, that's all because I feel like it's all because I didn't surrender. I constantly fought. I fought against the stream every step of the way. Like I fought myself into different institutions, into different rooms, you know, like through different doors where I was never meant to enter. So for someone like me, this idea that you can just surrender, that you can stop trying to control the outcome, girl, if I didn't try to control the outcome, I would still be back in visiems, like eating samushkas, squatting by the table, doing drugs, you know, like I wouldn't be doing I wouldn't be where I am today. But I think that there is this fine balance. I realized that for me there no longer was any balance. My relationship with the universe has become incredibly hostile because of my circumstances, because of my conditions and where I grew up and where I lived and what I had to face. I just got used to this idea that life is against me, this world is against me, everything is against me, and I have to constantly be fighting. If I want anything good out of life, I have to be fighting. And while that's all valid, it also means that I'm functioning from a place of a broken relationship with the universe. It's not energy I really want to have. For me, it just went to such high levels that I now need to control the outcome of everything, that I am, you know, paranoid and scared if something is out of my control, if, you know, something can go my way, and so on. And so the hardest lesson that I've learned this year, and I'm still learning, is the power of surrender and just knowing that sometimes you can release the grip and things are going to be okay. And in fact, if I place this trust in universe rather than being defensive against it, it's gonna flow smoothly and naturally. And immediately with this point, point number 3 is to remember that you are divinely protected and guided. Divinely protected and guided. And those go hand in hand for me, because to learn to trust the universe and to really surrender, to release the grip, to stop trying to control the outcome, because we can't. We can't control the outcome of everything. Like, that's just how it is. I can't control everything about my life. I can't even control which country I'm gonna be living in next year. I can't control the job market. I can't control family. I can't control nothing. Honestly, like almost nothing is in our control. Knowledge paired with knowing that regardless of everything, I am divinely protected and guided, and you are divinely protected and guided because you say so and you believe so. And knowledge itself is the divine. That is what's protecting me and guiding me. And I've seen that in my life so much. I just have so much to be grateful for that I have no reason to believe that I'm not divinely protected. Y'all, I could have been dead 1,000 times and I'm not. And I think it's just a beautiful knowledge and a beautiful thing to keep in mind, is that we're all God's or universe or whatever, spirit's children, and we're all protected at all times. And number 4, which once again, I think it's more of like, it's not a list, it's like things flowing into one another. So the next one for me is to be thankful for closed doors. And that's, once again, it's knowledge that I can have only if I believe that I'm divinely protected and guided, only if I believe that I can surrender, I can release the grip, and I can stop trying to control the outcome. I can believe in once I've mended this relationship with the outside world, with the universe that I've had, because now I know that whatever is meant for me is gonna come for me. And I try to control the outcome, I can't be thankful for closed doors, because I might be thinking, oh, you know, like going to this university or moving to this country or doing this thing is the most important thing for me, and that is my goal, and that is what I'm striving for, and you know, like I get what I want, I work hard for it, and then if that doesn't turn out, then I don't believe in myself, and you know, all these negative thoughts start coming in. But the truth is that what's meant for me is gonna come to me. And actually, closed doors, we should be so thankful for. When I look back at my past, there's been so many times when I went through huge disappointment, huge heartbreak, when I felt like this is everything I wanted and needed, and I can't have it, or it's shattered, or you know, I wasn't let in. And now that I look back at it, I'm like, that was the best thing that could have happened to me. I think basically all the things that I've just been talking about is about trusting the universe, just trusting that what's mine is gonna come to me. And I know that, yeah, I know I didn't like always live in the best conditions. I know what it's like to listen someone say these things when you're suffering and when life is really bad and when you're hungry and when you're in pain and when there's trauma living in your body, and you're listening to someone say this and you're like, well, I really don't think that I'm thankful for the suffering. I really don't think that, I understand what that feels like, and I'm still working through it. I definitely don't believe that any of us have to suffer to learn something. Like, I don't believe that. I don't think suffering is necessary for me to become a better, smarter, whatever person. But suffering is part of life. It just is. We can't avoid it. There's so much suffering in my life that is unavoidable. Like, I can't do anything about it. So I'm definitely still working through feeling all of that, and maybe not being grateful for all of it, but just taking what I can from all of that and understanding that regardless of whether I like it or not, this is my life experience, and I do have some choice in terms of what I do with it and how I view it. The next point is to redefine success for yourself. And I think this is something all of us, once we finish college, if we go to college, but around that age, and then we spend a couple of years, like doing different things, trying to pay the bills, and we just come to this point in our lives where we sit down and realize, fuck, like, I thought I wanted this, but I don't want this. Looking at my resume or looking, at my life path and where I've started, where I'm from, a lot of that is like success. That's the definition of success. Now that I'm in a PhD program, when you look at people who are in PhDs, the definition of success is graduating, getting a job, like being an assistant teacher, a tenure track professor, and so on and so on. And the more I look at it, being in this space, I realize that this isn't success for me. I see people who are extremely sad and miserable and depressed and suffering, and I'm not only talking about my fellow grad students, I'm also talking about professors. Like, I'm looking at professors who are teaching at a good university, and I'm looking at their lives, and that's actually not what I want. That's not the life I want to live. I don't want to be that overworked. I don't want to have that little time with my family. It's just not actually what I want. And more, and I keep saying this all the time because of how traumatic getting a PhD is, I have the most respect for people who dare to quit, because it takes so much courage to take the path less traveled, to especially when you're already set up for success. It takes so much courage to drop out of that and say, actually, this isn't my path to success. Actually, this doesn't look like success to me. This isn't what I want. So redefine what success is for you. That's something that's been a big thing for me, and I'm still working through it. And it truly looks like, I will sit down and try to answer like basic questions for myself. Like, what does a good day look like to me? What does a good day feel? What are my top 3 most important things in life? Like, what makes me happy? Like, doing what feels like I'm making a change or creating an impact. Like, all of these things that you feel like we ask those things, but we don't. We really just follow a path, right? So, and also answering those questions, you might be shocked. Like, I'm realizing, for example, that like all the stuff that I'm interested in and want to do doesn't require any education in terms of like a bachelor or a master's, or it's certainly not a doctorate, right? So here I am, been pursuing education my whole fucking life, like suffered so much for it, and then I look at the things that actually interest me and what I want to do, and a lot of that has to do with health and wellness and spirituality and all different types of change at a much different level, and I'm like, damn, all this education. But yeah, redefine success for yourself. You might be surprised what you find out. It is so hot in here. It's October 15 in Baltimore. Why is it so hot? Oh my god. Anyways, the next one is the most important work you'll do is at home. And this is something that you can agree with me, you can disagree with me. This is just something that I feel, and it doesn't have to be your truth. It doesn't have to be anyone else's truth, but something that obviously I work with in myself a lot are my ideas on how can I be of most help to society, to the world, to people that I stand in solidarity with. Basically my political work, my community work, activism work, social justice, and all of those issues are and have always been, literally have always been at the, deep in my heart, and it's something that I no matter what happens in my life, like I will continue doing what I do and fighting for what I believe in and speaking the truth and so on. But I think the society have these ideas of where this work happens, and the thing is that it happens everywhere. I mean, it happens everywhere. Big reason why I study political science and why I came to political science is because I thought that the largest impact I can have and, you know, where I can really make some changes happen is in politics or even in academia by, you know, like doing this research. And that is important work. Like, it's extremely important work, but I also believe that we just tend to instantly devalue work that happens at home, and we do this because it's work that's done by women, that's unpaid, that's, you know, just like not viewed as work under capitalism and so on. And so I've sort of returned to this idea and realized that the most important work that I do in my life, even while I'm doing all of this academia, all of this politics, all these other stuff, the most important work I do is actually at home. And by home, I mean like my physical home. I also mean my emotional, my spiritual home. I mean like my family, my friends, my circle, my community, the people that I interact with. And I also believe that a lot of the most important work is, you know, how we, the relationships that we create. And that means a lot of the times we talk about that in terms of like raising the next generation. So like raising our children, I believe, is a deeply political work that is so important, and we have to take great caution and care and, you know, put work and effort into that, because it is important, like how we raise our kids, what values we install in them and show them and live by example, and how we let them view the world and, you know, help guide them through. It's not just with children. I take massive pride in the fact that I've, I don't want to say educated, but I've learned with my parents through everything that I've been able, all knowledge that I've had access to through the different academic institutions I've been through. I've shared all that knowledge with my parents. We've had those conversations. We've grown together to the point where we are on the same page. You know, like there's my instant community that like I take such great care with. It's more than just learning and knowledge and all that stuff. Oh my God, I'm rambling. I feel like it's a hard point to convey, but it's also just about how I choose to interact with other people, the kind of relationship I choose to have with other people. Like, especially now that we talked about so much about police abolition, prison abolition, about abolition in general. I saw so many tweets that were like, yeah, y'all are saying abolish the police, but have you abolished the cop in your head? Because a lot of us still have so many ideas that we need to unlearn, so many generational, you know, trauma and stuff that we need to heal through, and unless we do, we perpetuate it. I mean, like, unless I know how to raise my kids better, I'm just gonna raise them the way that I was raised, which maybe wasn't the best. So a lot of this work happens at home. It's intimate, it's personal. It doesn't happen necessarily in the streets, it doesn't happen in the Congress, it doesn't happen at all these other levels where great change happens, and it's so important. Like, that work is so important, but the work at home is also incredibly important. And I think that it's taken me a while to give myself permission and to allow myself to see that as work, to see that as important work, and to actually understand that I have changed so many things by changing myself, which I think is like our main thing. Like, when we bring peace to ourselves, when we change ourselves, when we start operating from a different place, when we really heal the stuff within us, we ultimately heal the people around us, the people that came before us and the ones that are going to come after us. Like, that stuff is incredibly important. A little bit why this point is even on the list for me is because I always used to believe, especially during college, where I was surrounded by people not on the same page politically as I, people who were completely disinterested in social justice of any kind. I always thought that people who are gonna hold the same values as me, those are the people that are gonna be my friends, be my community, be my family, and so on. And I think, like, coming to grad school and pursuing this PhD and doing other things in my life, I finally met and, you know, engaged with so many people who have those same beliefs and, you know, are on the same page with me and are fighting the good fight in so many ways, and at the same time are incredibly trash in person. Like, they're not great friends, they are not good people. And not all, I'm obviously not talking about all, but that has been my experience quite a few times, where I think like, oh wow, well, especially in grad school, y'all, and especially in grad school, where it's just like, y'all say this shit in class and you know, hold these beliefs and these theories and you actually fight and work for them. Like, I see you truly like helping and, you know, community work and so on. But you're mean. Like, you're just a mean person. You are not engaging with other people out of love. You are not cultivating the type of relationships that I think match up with the beliefs and values you hold in your day-to-day life. And so for me, that realization is really where this stems from, where it's like, well, I think like that's actually the most important part. Like, I don't really care what theorists you read and what you write about and how, you know, like the work that you do on paper or in your community meeting, when you come home and you're actually basically like cause and inflict harm on others. Okay, the next one is, and it's something I actually talked briefly about in the meditation video. It's one of the things I definitely learned from meditating. You are not your emotions and you are not your thoughts. There's always a space between you and what you're thinking, between what you and what you're feeling. And recognizing this space is the key to success. It's the key to everything. The most important to recognize that in terms of feeling anger and in terms of giving forgiveness to somebody. And I realized that something like anger is in me and part of me for only as long as I let it be there. And so I can release it. I can just release it because it doesn't serve me. So I can release it. And forgiveness the same way. It's not that I'm forgiving another person who hurt me or wronged me for the sake of them. I'm doing that because I don't deserve to hold on to that anymore. This really doesn't serve me. And with this point, the next point, that next lesson I've learned is to release limiting beliefs. And what I mean by limiting beliefs is that, you know, we start to believe something early in life, and maybe this belief becomes part of our identity. And so once it becomes part of our identity, we become attached to it, and then at that point we no longer really question it, and we certainly we actually defend it and we cling to it, we hold on to it. But at some point in our lives, it's good to actually detach it a little bit, like take a look at it and be like, does this still serve me? Is it good for me? Should I release it? Like, I recently talked about this on Instagram, like a limiting belief that I had in terms of like camping and nature stuff, which I thought were things that, you know, like only rich people do. That certainly isn't something that I'm interested in. And that was such a strong part of my identity. Like, in general, being a city girl is a huge part of has been a huge part of my identity. And in many ways, there's things about it that still serve me. But in many ways, there's things about it that don't serve me anymore. Like, how am I benefiting from that? How am I benefiting from limiting myself from other experiences because they don't match up with who I think I am? In general, I feel like because of like all this like spiritual reading that I've been doing and self-study work that I've been doing, I feel like I am none of those things. Like, I am none of my thoughts, I am none of my emotions, I am not what you think I am not what I think I am literally nothing. Like, we are all nothing. There's just like infinite possibilities of things that we can be and things that we can do, but ultimately, like, I am just energy, I am just consciousness, I am just like a spiritual being experiencing things, and I don't cling myself to certain beliefs or emotions, because I do feel like almost I want to say all adjectives that I place on myself, all identities that I place on myself, like, end up limiting me in some way, and I don't want that. Like, I don't want to be limited by anything. I genuinely want to wake up every morning feeling like I am nothing, I am just energy, I am just experience, and then taking on that day new, like with completely new eyes. Anyone asks me like, what is your favorite color? What would you like to do today? Instead of just letting the reactive part of me just answer, speaking out of history, speaking out of past beliefs, past limiting beliefs, but really just like tuning into myself and thinking, what is it? Like, what is true for me right now? Because those things change. Like, we are ever changing. Like, there's truly, we're limitless, like infinite possibilities. And I think that has really been the work of the last year, I want to say, because I think prior to that, it took me a while to learn this idea that I don't just have to be one thing. Like, you know, we tell a lot of times, like, women can only be smart or beautiful or this or that. So going beyond these boundaries and realizing that no, I actually don't need to just be one thing. I can be all the things. I can be everything I want, and that's true and correct, and I'm happy that I went through that. And now I just feel like I'm part of this, like next part of my journey is realizing that actually I'm none of those things. Like I am absolutely nothing, and that is the most freeing thing for me right now. Okay, the very last thing is gonna be one thing, something along the lines of like self-love and prioritize yourself, but it's really going to be a million things. So first of all, the lesson of prioritizing yourself and prioritizing how you feel all the time, because you are your best friend and you are the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. You are the one who has to take care of yourself. Okay, other people might do it on and off, maybe they do it all the time, but you have to be your biggest defender, your biggest supporter. You have to do it for yourself. You have to show up for yourself, believe in yourself, invest in yourself, prioritize and value yourself. It's so, so, so important. Also, and I think it's a really important, especially now in, you know, the age of social media and all of that, prioritize feeling good over looking good, like experience and feeling over appearance. I think it's so important. There are so many lives that look good that don't actually feel good, and that's something that, you know, once you realize that and once you understand that, peace in your heart. Loving yourself also means releasing other people's opinions. I feel like this is the one lesson that we say at every single stage in our lives, like, you know, from like middle school and high school and all the time. It's like, yeah, I'm just not gonna care what other people think. I'm not gonna, but we care what other people think so deeply. We still care. We care when we're 35, we care when we're 40, we just care all the time. So it's this one thing that we need to constantly digest. Like we need to constantly remember that, like, I release other people's opinions of me, and I'm certainly not going to let other people's opinions limit me, restrict me, stop me from doing something. I think that just the fear of other people and other people's opinions gets in the way of so much creativity, of so much reproduction, of just so much genius and so many amazing things that we all could be doing, but we have some fear of what so-and-so might say or what it might look like, or fear of failure or whatever. Release all that, baby. It's your life. Like, you only have one of these. Like, we only have one of these. This is it. This is the moment. So release all of that. And in terms of releasing other people's opinions, also means releasing comparison. I'm not comparing myself to anybody else. And I also remember that you are on your own timeline. I am on my own timeline. I might be at this age and I've done these things and I haven't done these things. None of that matters. First of all, time is fake. It's an illusion. It's not real. There's nothing that you should have done by this age. There is no such thing. Those are all limits, obstacles that you set for yourself. Those are all expectations that imprison you in the end, that you set for yourself. Release them. No need for that. Just experience life. Experience it. Live it. Love it. Now, for real, the last thing that is a big lesson that I'm taking away from this year, and I'm taking it into all other years that the universe will gift me, is that I am no longer waiting for happiness. I am not waiting for it. I am creating it, and I am feeling it every single day. Like, right at this moment, right now, I am really happy and I am at peace and I'm fulfilled and I feel wonderful. This is certainly a lesson that came to me the hardest during grad school, because I think so much of academia is just expected suffering. You expect to suffer in college, but it's like, okay, because it's just going to be 4 years, and then you expect to suffer in grad school, and you expect to suffer at this job or at that job, or you expect to suffer this week at work or this month at work, but you know, at some point the suffering is going to end, right? Like, the happiness is going to set in, right? No, it's not how it works. And for me, getting a PhD was really eye-opening in that matter, because it can take a decade to finish a PhD. I mean, the department average in my department is 7 years. And with the type of suffering that I was feeling already the first year, I realized that, my life is entirely too valuable to be suffering for 7 years. I am not doing that. Like, and I think there is suffering under capitalism for all of us that are exploited for our labor, and it's just something that we can't escape because we got to pay our bills, but we don't know how much we got, okay? Like, I think it's like some people might say it's like a morbid thought, but honestly, like, thinking of death really enhances your life experience when you understand that this isn't all given. Like, this is such a blessing, and like really digesting that and understanding that, at least for me, it really allows me to live more fully and to just be happier with what I have. Okay, my loves, that was an extremely short, condensed. I know it might not feel like it, but I really condensed a lot of stuff. I actually have a lot more. I hope that some of this stuff resonated with you. If so, let me know in the comments below. Share some other things that you've learned in however many years you've been experiencing life on this planet Earth. And yeah, like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content, and I'm sending you so much love and joy, and I'm just so thankful for us having this time together.